Game day tomorrow, people. Get excited. Syracuse has another chance to let you down on a Saturday. We're going to talk about everything the Orange need to do to pull out a victory, what we want to see in this game, our questions going into this game. It's all on Locked On Syracuse, and it's right now.
Are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Matt Bonaparte, Owen Valentine with you on Locked On Syracuse. It is your Friday episode. Thanks for making Locked On Syracuse your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. Today's episode brought to you by Underdog. Sign up on UnderdogFantasy.com with the promo code Locked On and get your first deposit doubled up to $100. Okay. This is a game that is set up for a lot of things. One of them is not many people to watch it because Syracuse has one, clinched a bowl game, and two, likely to lose, and has let you down for 4 straight weeks. I'll be watching it. Owen will be watching it, but I'd say the casual fan probably will not, just because there's not a lot of hype in Syracuse football right now. But I will say, like I said in our tweet I guess Thursday morning, it's odd feeling that Syracuse football is currently doing the job of taking your mind off of Syracuse basketball, who just lost to Colgate. So pain. Um,
Yeah.
let's talk about what we want to see in this game and our questions going into this game. For me, I want to see something to get the fans excited early. Kind of what Notre Dame did against SU inside the dome. I mean, that was brutal. I was just thinking back to that. I took a picture, sent it to my dad, said, I'm in the dome. Look at this. Sat down, they were down 6-0. I was shook. I could not believe it. So Syracuse, do something to get the fans excited early, because there have been too many times this season where the air has just been let out of the bag, and SU really just needs something, man.
1000%. I need to see something happen. I think that Notre Dame play is the perfect example for just that instant spark, that get go, that immediate pop for a team. And hopefully in this game, it needs to be Syracuse. You got to get something that will fire you up. I think back to, that play and how important it was. But just like, I look at Wake Forest and how they've, in a lot of their losses this season, have fallen behind early on. And it has been that early deficit that they've had to climb out of. And I think that big play early on would really go a long way in setting the pace for this game and maybe, hindering Wake Forest's mindset going into this matchup. For me, what I'm looking for in terms of what I want to see is a Kayvon Darton master.
I couldn't believe you picked this.
I need a master class. I think he can. I love hearing the sawed off nose tackle. I want to see it happen. I want to see him go nuts in this game because he gets the attention. He is the guy that everyone is so fired up to see because it makes no sense that he is playing at the level he is playing and as effectively as he is playing. I want to see him go off. I want to see him absolutely be just a presence in the backfield. Be an animal. He is just nonstop. Like every time I hear someone talk about him, it's, oh, he's small, but holy crap. Have you seen the way he plays? It is so fun to see what he does every game. I do feel like, and I don't want to bash him by any means, but I feel like he gets hurt.
You need a master class out of him. You can't bash him.
He gets hurt for like 3 plays every game. And I always get nervous.
But he gets back up every single time because he's a dog.
He's always back. I want to see him just tear Sam Hartman to the floor one time, maybe 2. Who cares? Be an absolute animal, be a presence, and be nonstop in this game. That is what I want to see.
I'll tell you what, when I was in Syracuse for the Notre Dame game, I saw him and his family at a Mexican restaurant, and he was hounding enchiladas. So if that means anything for how he's going to play this Sunday or this Saturday, It bodes well. All right. My question going into this game: do you think Dino feels guilty going into every game, absolutely getting clattered, going down 4 straight games, and then going into the press conferences and be like, they're a good team. All right, and
I was going to
I'm
say
proud of
that.
this group of men.
This is
Proud.
the post-game press conferences. That's a good football team. They're well coached.
I hate that.
They're a well-coached football team. It's exactly it. Every game.
It's brutal. And I'm in pain every time I watch those. He only ever was transparent one time, and it was the press conference for the Notre Dame game that week leading up to it, where he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be honest for once, guys." And everyone was like, "What?" And then he was like, "Here's a couple things we suck." And everyone was like, "Wow, really?" And then he hasn't really done that since. So I'm just wondering how he feels after all these games. Is he saying like, I don't care. I'm coming back. I can't get fired. Wild Hack loves me for no reason. This is fine. And I won 6 games, so we're going to a bowl game, so he can't fire me. It makes no sense. I'm just wondering how he feels. Owen, your question.
The question for me is really going to be, what does this quote healthy Garrett Schrader look like? He said this week that he feels as healthy as he's been in a while, and that he's sort of back to what we want him to be at. I need to know what that looks like, given the current state of how the O-line has been playing, how the receivers have been playing, the struggles that Sean Tucker's had this season. What does this sort of healthier or almost, fully healthy Garrett Schrader bring to the table in terms of a boost or in terms of a spark for this offense? Because I need to see him in order to see this team succeed. And it's sort of that full circle moment, right? We haven't done it in a while, but that Schrader confidence meter and where we were at the start of the season. And I think I started at like 50%, and then it got up to, I think, 80 or 90%. And then it dipped back down, and then he's been battling injury, and I haven't really returned to it. I want to see that confidence meter really rise in this game and say, you know what, it was injury that was why he was struggling. And now that he's healthy, he is back. This offense is going to thrive a lot more, being able to bring the dual threat run of Schrader on the ground and Tucker on the ground, plus the passing ability is going to be able to make defenses hurt a lot more. I hope that's the case, but I don't know right now in my mind. I have hopes. I have expectations for what this healthier Schrader looks like. I don't know, and I need to see what will that healthy Schrader look like and what changes arise from the offense as a result.
All right. I want to see something to get the fans excited. Owen is infatuated by Kayvon Darton today. He's wondering about a healthy Garrett Schrader. I want to know about how Dino feels about each one of these 4 losses leading up to this game. That's what what we're questioning going into this one. We're going to take a quick break. After it, the wonderful Max Chadwick joins us for a quick chat. But before he does, let me tell you about Underdog Fantasy. It's the easiest place to spice up college football this season. You can play in over 30 states. It's easy to play, and it's available in those 30 states. Just pick between 2 and 5 players across any team, not just your team, and decide if they will finish higher or lower. One of the easiest fantasy games out there, and you can win cold hard cash in a single game. Sign up with the promo code Locked On, which is one word, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. Deposit $100, get $100 free. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com or find the Underdog Fantasy app in the App Store or Google Play Store. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code Locked On, which is one word. Get in on the college football pick'em action today. All right, we're back here on Locked On Syracuse. I'm Matt Bonaparte. He's Owen Valentine. That's Max Chadwick. This is the Chat with Chadwick. If you're a YouTube viewer, you see a little notepad that acts as the open for this segment. If you are a listener of the podcast, this is all you're gonna get. Woo! Max, we're happy to have you back.
It's a chat with Chad.
Thank you so much for having me again. I love I think the lack of an open has become the open now, and I think us just talking about how there's no open is the open. So it's very meta in that way. I would have it none other way.
I'm glad. Because you're not going to get it any other way.
Yeah. It's only a couple more games.
Give us some numbers, Max.
Sure. So, Owen's guy this week, Kayvon Darden, Syracuse interior defensive lineman, he has a 60.5 grade this year, which is only tied for 231st among all interior
It's
defensive
not about the
linemen in the country.
numbers for Kayvon.
Well, what I was going to say, though, is that what that means is he's due. And that means a big game coming. As whenever I'm gambling and I'm on a cold streak and I'm betting on this one team, I go, you know what? They're due this week. Usually doesn't work out for me, but I think it'll work out this week for Kayvon Darden. Garrett Schrader, though, you guys mentioned him, 86.4 grade this year, which is 11th among Power 5 quarterbacks. So a very good season for him. The only problem is he's had sub 60 grades in his last 2 games that he's played in against both Notre Dame and Florida State. So a bit of a cold streak Garrett Schrader's on so far. I'm very interested in what he looks like against Wake Forest, because Wake Forest has a really good quarterback of their own in Sam Hartman, who has a 90.8 passing grade since last season. That's 4th among active Power 5 quarterbacks. He's got a really good receiving core that he gets to throw to too. They have an 86.8 receiving grade as a team, which is the 3rd highest in the country, 2nd highest in the Power 5, only to Ohio State. And we know how ridiculous that Ohio State receiving core is. Like Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Egbuka, those are 2 of like the 3 or 4 best receivers in college football, in my opinion. So Wake Forest is right behind them in terms of receiving core. And they have 5 wide receivers with 70-plus grades this year. Syracuse, for comparison, has 1, Oronde Gadsden, who's actually been moved from tight end over to wide receiver in our database, because he's played now more wide receiver than tight end this year. So he's the only guy on Syracuse's receiving core that has a plus 70 grade this year. Wake Forest has 5 wide receivers that have 70-plus grades. In fact, Oronde Gadsden is the only orange receiver with a 60-plus grade too. Everyone else is below 60 besides Oronde Gadsden, showing how much they rely on him in that receiving game. Keyshawn Williams, the Wake Forest wide receiver, 2nd highest graded wide receiver in the ACC, only behind North Carolina's Josh Downs, who could be a first-round pick, honestly, in this year's draft. Wake Forest has a superstar on their interior defensive line in Kobe Turner. Now, he didn't really start off as a superstar. In fact, he was a walk-on at Richmond, which is an FCS school. Rich,
The
what?
Spiders.
As Owen and I would go, yeah, the Spiders.
Rich what?
Kobe Turner, though, has started off as a walk-on at an FCS school 5 years ago. He was a superstar for Richmond. Then he transfers to Wake Forest this year, continued to be a superstar. He's the 2nd highest graded interior defensive lineman in the Power 5. He's got the highest pass rushing grade in the Power 5 for interior defensive lineman. Like, if I had to give out the Burlsworth Trophy right now, which is given to the best player who started his career as a walk-on, I would probably give it to Kobe Turner because of how ridiculous that he's been for Wake Forest after coming from an FCS school and after being a walk-on at an FCS school, no less, too. So really, really impressive turnaround Kobe Turner's had in his career. Also, another really good player on the defensive line is Rondra Bothroyd. He's tied for the highest pass rushing grade among Power 5 edge defenders. Actually tied with Penn State's Chop Robinson at 91.2. So Bothroyd is a very, very good pass rusher. Again, tied for the highest pass rusher grade among Power 5 edges. And he'll be going against probably Matthew Bergeron a lot in this game. And Matthew Bergeron, 80.3 pass blocking grade, is 4th among ACC tackles. So that'll be a matchup to definitely watch on Saturday. And Syracuse, you guys are going to go into your predictions a little bit. Right now, PFF gets Syracuse as a 23.4% chance to win this game, according to our simulations. So it doesn't look too great for the Orange, but they could, win this game and hopefully, get to 8 wins with a win over Boston College too. But right now, we see them more as a 7-5 team, losing this game and then beating Boston College to close out the year.
I don't hate it. Okay, the numbers have never been on our side, as Dino would remind you many, many times. That was actually like the coolest thing he said before the year. I can't remember where he said it. Might have been at like Media Day. Might have been just in training camp. Somebody asked him about like projections, and he was like, "When I was at Bowling Green, we were projected to go 0-11. We won the conference." And I was like, "Okay, Dino." And then he was like, "When we went 10-3, we were projected to come last. And guess what happened? We went to the Camping World Bowl." And I was like, "All right, I'm getting amped."
Yep.
And then,
the next year when we were ranked, we stuck again. So we never beat projections.
He didn't mention that. but he didn't mention the 1 in 10 season.
He still didn't meet projections technically that year. So
It's
this
true.
guy never lives
The
up to
numbers
expectations either
don't
way.
matter, Max. That's all I've learned.
Let me throw this out there. I'm going to try and figure this out on the spot here. I mean, in terms of conference record, right? If Syracuse loses the next 2 games, the predictions are right. And they finish dead last in the ACC Atlantic.
Really?
That's the reality of the next 2 weeks.
That's
BC
so
in the
crazy.
conference is 2-5. Syracuse is currently 3-3. Actually, maybe Louisville could finish last. But if Syracuse loses the next 2 games, Wake Forest will be 3-4, depending on what they do in their final. Or no, Wake Forest will be 3-4. Right? Yeah. They'll then 1 more game. BC will be 3-5, and both will have the tiebreaker over Syracuse.
Well, that's not what you want.
That's depressing.
But
right?
hey,
So
you
regardless
can still
of
hang your hat
prediction,
on a bowl.
Yeah.
True. BC can't make a bowl.
Mm-hmm.
You know who will though is UConn, the Huskies.
Oh yeah.
Roll Connecticut, baby. All right. Well, Max, we appreciate your numbers as we do every single week. I hope you come back for what is potentially the final chat with Chadwick, but I don't want it to be, so probably
We
won't
do a
be.
bowl game 1.
Yeah, we can get bowl game 1, totally.
Yeah.
Bowl game
okay.
chat Chad.
We'll work into basketball season 2, so don't worry about that. You'll turn into
KenPom for that. Yeah.
I was about to say you'll be KenPom man. Okay.
Max Pomeroy.
Well, let's take another quick break here on Locked On Syracuse. This one brought to you by Nugenix, people. I'm talking Nugenix. All right. Owen, do you remember when winning felt easy? That's because
first 6
when
games
you
of the
were
season.
younger, you were at the peak of your testosterone production, kind of like how Kayvon Darton is right now. What some have called the winner's hormone or the man hormone. Wouldn't it be nice to get that winner's edge again and that old swagger back in your step? Want more energy to counter the negative physical effects of aging? Nugenix Total T Testosterone Booster with Testofen, say that 10 times fast, will help you turn back the clock, re-energize your workouts, get you better results at the gym, and help you look and feel like the man you really want to be. Nugenix Total T contains man-boosting key ingredients like Testofen. It has been validated in 5 clinical studies shown to boost free testosterone levels in men because Nugenix Total T boosts the free testosterone that the aging process robs. You'll feel stronger, leaner, with more energy and drive and more passion too. While every product professes quality, many other products use generic ingredients that are often far less than clinical grade. With Nugenix Total T, you get the same clinical potency levels used in the trials. And Nugenix's formulation is backed by 10 years, a decade of science and research. Now, get a complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T when you text college to 231-231. Text now and get a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, their most powerful fat incinerator ever, with key ingredients to help you get back into shape fast, absolutely free. Text college to 231-231. That's college to 231-231. Texting enrolls you into recurring automated messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply. Okay. Let's finish it up here by giving some keys and some predictions to a win at Wake Forest. Owen, if the Orange are to win this game, other than production from the main man, Kayvon Darton, what must they do?
What must they do? I'm going to say they need to step on Wake Forest's throat from the get-go. Do not let them breathe in this game. Be right on top of them. Start fast. That was my old cliche all through collegiate sports takes for Syracuse, was to start fast, but they need to start this game ready to go. They need to get out early for Syracuse. They cannot afford to fall behind, and you need to put that pressure on early and keep the pressure on. Wake Forest has played decent coming from behind in games, and they will continue to blow you out if you let them go from the start. You've got to get an early lead. You've got to have, as you were saying, what you want to see, that big play. I need to see that, and I need to see Syracuse come out and do that because that will help them win. Wake Forest has dug themselves holes this year. They have the talent to come back from a lot of them, but if you're Syracuse and you're going to beat a Wake Forest team that is better than you, that's what the spread says. That's what the eye test says. Wake Forest is a better football team than you are. You, in order to win this game, are going to need to be there from the start, and you cannot afford to dig yourself. You can't run a stick through the ground. That is too big of a hole for Syracuse to come out of in this game. They've got to be on top and ready to go from the start.
I like that. For me, I think it's about energy in this one. Against
Love that.
FSU, there was no energy in the whole building. I think it's about keeping intensity throughout the game and remembering that you have won 6 games this year. Despite being 0-4 in your last 4, it's not, all doom and gloom. It doesn't necessarily have to be. Go out there and play like you were a 6-0 team, because you were. Prediction for me, sadly, I say Syracuse loses this one. I think it's going to be 35-10. Wake Forest wins it.
35-10. Wow. I was going to go higher scoring.
Okay.
I think I was thinking 45-28. I think Wake Forest
You think they're
going to
score 28 points?
Yeah.
Who's scoring 28 points?
I don't know. Just let me have my moment.
You don't know.
I don't know. I'm going to have blind faith in Schrader. I was as wrong as humanly possible last week, so any take I have right now is going to be better than I did against Florida State. I think this is a high-scoring game. Wake's defense has let them down in games before. Teams have scored very much so against Wake this season. And I think Syracuse's ground game, if Sean Tucker comes to play, if Schrader is truly healthy, can present enough of a struggle for a Wake Forest team that, has let teams score, even if they're not great scoring teams. Liberty scores 36. I guess that was my only example. Louisville scores 21. NC State scores 21. Teams have scored 20-ish points on Wake Forest a good chunk this year. Florida State with 21. Obviously, Clemson put up a 50-piece against them. Vandy scores 25 points against them. The Wake Forest offense scores their points, but the defense very seldom is holding teams to 10 or fewer points or 20 or fewer points. The only teams that haven't gotten to 20 points are, BC, Army, and VMI. Don't ask me what
Virginia
that stands for.
Militaristic Institute.
Thank you. Syracuse can score points against them. I don't think they can score enough.
All right. Well, that does it for this episode of Locked On Syracuse. We both think they lose, but maybe they won't. Thank you for making Locked On Syracuse your first listen. For your next, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast, the biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. Available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. I'm Matt Bonaparte. He's Owen Valentine. That was Max Chadwick before. We will see you on Monday after what is hopefully a Syracuse victory.